Welcome to NIAC's Installing Fiberglass Pipe Insulation Video Part 2, entitled Insulating Fittings, a Simple Challenge When You Know How. In the Installing Fiberglass Pipe Insulation Training Video Part 1, we showed you the basics of insulating straight runs of pipe, the tools and safety equipment you need. Be reminded that safe work practices and your personal protection are important in every job you work on. This includes proper use of eye and respiratory protection. NIAC's Safety Handbook is an excellent reference to help prevent accidents and injuries. If any questions, ask your supervisor. And we showed you how to insulate around hangers and branch runoffs. It ended by insulating the pipes up to both sides of a 90-degree elbow. Now we'll show you how to become an expert at insulating elbows and other types of fittings. It's easy once you know how. One of the easiest ways to insulate fittings is with a preformed PVC fitting cover and flexible fiberglass insulation insert system. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Where there are several fittings located close together, it's best to apply all pipe insulation before doing the fittings. This provides a firm base for the fitting cover. So it's time to start insulating fittings, and our first one is this 90-degree threaded L. Step 1, wrap the fiberglass insert around the fitting, making sure it covers the surface completely. Sometimes the operating temperature of hot lines might be so high that 2 fiberglass inserts may be needed to keep the PVC surface temperature below 140 degrees Fahrenheit, or it will soften. So make sure the fiberglass blanket covers the fitting and is thick enough. Step 2. Install the fitting cover over the insulation, making sure it fits tightly against the adjacent pipe insulation jacket. Place the throat seam overlap away from view or line up with other fitting and pipe insulation overlaps. Step 3. Hold the cover firmly in place and attach by pushing serrated tacks in the cover overlap. Do not pull the fitting cover so tight that it puckers the pipe insulation jacket. The result is a neat finished appearance that never needs painting or additional finish. This is the easy 1, 2, 3 way to insulate a hot line fitting. For cold lines, follow the same procedure, but you must vapor seal the system to keep moisture vapor from condensing in the insulation, which destroys its efficiency if not given time to dry out completely. The best way to keep moisture out is to use vapor barrier mastic on the inner seams, which are in contact with the pipe insulation vapor barrier jacket. Also coat the overlap on the fitting cover. Install as before. Then check to see if the seal is tight. Touch up any open areas with mastic. Some cold line insulation jobs call for sealing with vapor barrier tape instead of mastic. In this case, install the fitting system as for hot lines. Then tape around the joints between the fitting cover and the pipe insulation jacket and the cover throat. Don't stretch the tape when applying, as it will creep and destroy the seal. Rub down firmly to seal the tape. Use extreme care, as it is difficult to seal tightly with the tape alone. But you can do it if you are careful. PVC covers located outdoors should be sealed the same as for vapor sealing. They should also be sealed indoors wherever they are subject to washdown. For example, If the pipe insulation thickness is 1/2 inch and the elbows are oversized, as they sometimes are, or have flanged ends, regular PVC covers can be used by installing an extra layer of pipe insulation adjacent to the fitting and using an oversized cover to fit the outside diameter of the pipe insulation spacer rings. Be sure to add an extra layer of flexible insert to fill the fitting cover cavity. And on cold lines, add PVC end caps and seal. There are other ways to insulate pipe fittings. Two of the most common are with pre-molded fiberglass insulation fittings or fittings fabricated from pipe and board insulation in the field or in the shop. For instance, on this 90-degree L, the molded fitting insulation halves are attached with wire or tape. Then finished off depending on the location of the pipe and requirements of the specification. This one has a weather or vapor barrier mastic reinforced with fiberglass cloth or mesh embedded in the first coat of mastic. Or fitting insulation can also be made by cutting pipe insulation sections in the field or in the shop, then adhering the segments together to form two halves. For 90-degree elbows, determine whether the L is short or long radius. Short radius Ls have the elbow radius the same as the diameter of the pipe. Long radius Ls are 1 1/2 times the diameter of the pipe. The inside curve of the elbow is called the throat, and the outside, the heel. There are charts that will tell you how many miter segments you need for both short and long radius 90-degree Ls for pipe sizes from 3 1/2 to 24 inch and for insulation thicknesses from 1 inch to 3 inches. They also show B and C dimensions you need to lay out your cuts. These charts save a lot of time and help you make nice, neat fittings that fit and look good. To make mitered fitting covers by hand, cut a length of fiberglass pipe insulation into half-round sections by slicing through the hinge side of the insulation. Make sure this is the same size and thickness that was used on the adjoining pipe. Place it on a cutting surface with the inside surface up. Check the proper miter chart for dimensions and the number of miters required for the L. Next, measure in from the end of the section a few inches and mark a center line. Then measure and mark on the inner edge 1/2 the width of the heel and throat dimensions on each side of the center line. This will give the proper angles for the miter cuts. Cut this miter and use it to mark the other miter angles by making partial cuts with a sharp knife or saw. Mark as many as you need, then cut through, making sure to keep the cut straight. Try the segments on the L to check the fit. If okay, adhere the segments together to form two half L sections. Or they can be applied in pairs without being cemented together. This way, they can be turned slightly to adjust for proper fit. When installing the pipe insulation adjacent to the L, make sure it is cut off even at the center of the weld. Attach the mitered halves by taping in place. If the L changes the pipe from horizontal to vertical, install the insulation on the lower pipe first. The L can now be finished off to suit the job specification using preformed PVC or stamped metal covers, or for large Ls, a number of metal gores are required to be banded in place. Now, if you don't have a miter dimension chart handy, you can figure it out by using your tape measure and a little arithmetic. Measure the length of the elbow heel from weld to weld. Then the throat the same way. The number of miters required per elbow are, for pipe sizes up to 4 inch, there are 4. 6 are required for pipe sizes from 5 to 7 inches, 8 for 9 inch through 23 inch, and 10 for pipes over 23 inches. Divide the length of the heel by the number of miters required. This will be the width of the back of the miter. For this 4-inch L, the throat was 13 a little more than 1/8 inches. Divide by 6 and you have 2.188 or 2 3/16 inches.